Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very special episode of the WrestlePurists podcast. This isn't a review show. This is not a news update episode. We are here to have a conversation with a women's wrestling pioneer. Guys, we are here today joined by Melina Perez.
The Melina.
The Melina. Melina,
you don't even need a last name. You're just Melina.
Just Melina.
I know. Somebody asked me there, they wanted to put me in like a show, and this was non-wrestling. Like, oh, what's your you need to say your last name, and I was like, oh my goodness, I always say Melina,
just Melina,
and I never say my last name, so it was kind of weird.
I love that. I love that you got to just kind of keep your name. You know, like you didn't.
Oh my
God. Right, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like good and bad because it's good for the fact that I could always use it. They can never take that away.
Yeah.
But bad because people believe the character is me. Like there's no like differentiating it. It's like all one when it's not.
They're expecting you to like hit the split. They're expecting you to like hit the split at Walmart and stuff, right? Like
people have asked me to. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
All right.
Yeah, Melina, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Knock on wood.
Right.
Oh my God, I forgot to do my introduction. So I'm Isra. You guys might know me as Twitter user Rollins. I am so excited. Like I just stopped shaking a minute ago because I needed to like really process. Because like I was telling Melina off the air, like 8-year-old me would be screaming right now. And it's crazy to me to think that, 8-year-old me would be literally going crazy right now. And like, I don't know, like wouldn't even believe that this moment would be happening. Meanwhile, at that time, I had no idea that this woman that I viewed as a superstar and like as an icon didn't really like realize how much she was going through at the time. Like in terms of like the career, what was going on with like the dirt sheets, her personal life, whatever the case might be. And so like all these years later, the fact that she's here and speaking with us and has such an amazing story to tell, I couldn't be more honored. I couldn't be more humbled that you even, look at us, I couldn't even,
right?
I could not be more humbled right now. And I'm really, really excited to hear everything you have to say. So thank you so much.
You're gonna make me cry again.
Oh my God, it's gonna be a crying session. Like even Eagles gonna have to turn on his camera and cry with us.
Yeah, right. I flip it on and cry. Yeah, right. I hook it up. Melina's spirit is infectious. Like we've been around her for like 10 minutes, and Melina, to me, I feel like when you go to a show live, right? I feel like that's when you really get you experience the magic of wrestling more than TV sometimes. And when I'm there live sometimes, or when I'm like at least in direct contact with somebody, sometimes with certain people, you see almost why they're over, right? And I bring that up because in your case, like I'm just talking to you for 10 minutes and just this infectious positivity that you're giving off. I think this is why you've remained in the business so long, and why people welcome you back, and why the fans are always happy to see you, and why you stayed as over as you've been. It's not a trait that you can teach, I think, and it's not a trait that everybody just naturally has. So it's just an immediate observation. And again, we're so happy that you're here with us. Part of the reason why we wanted to bring you, Melina, is because you're somebody who has so much important experience in the business. You're somebody that you've come into the WWE and into pro wrestling in the early 2000s, and you've endured through so many different changes in the business for wrestling as a whole and for women in wrestling. And so you've seen it all, really. You've seen it all the changes, all the evolutions that have been made. And so because of that, we think that your perspective is very valuable and important here, because what we kind of want to talk about is basically the experience of women in wrestling through the eyes of Melina Perez.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited to get into it, Isra.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So just going off of what Hollywood was just saying, so you've been around from multiple eras of women's wrestling. You've been a part of the business, and you've seen so many different people come and go as it pertains to like the characters and the women that have changed around you. So in your firsthand experience, what have been kind of the biggest shifts in the way that women's wrestling has evolved from your own experience?
Wow. I feel like it's so crazy to think how little has been, like, in certain times, so much has shifted. Like, there's so many shifts, but then at the same time, didn't really go very far anywhere, it seemed like. From when I remember watching wrestling, like, okay, I watched the, like, in the 90s, the Attitude Era and everything, and they were strong women, and there were also women who were kind of like, they were just eye candies. And I always tell everybody, it's so weird. Like, when I was on the roster and whatnot, I came in, people thought I was one of the Diva Search girls, but I came in as from indie wrestling. So it's like, I was an in-betweener, I guess, because of the way people perceived me, but I was lost in the shuffle in a sense, where nobody knew what I was. So everybody just made their assumptions.
Yeah.
And I never had any hate for anybody, but people would just assume what they want to assume and just say what they like, feel what they want to feel. There's no change in that. But I never had any hate for anybody. And I appreciated the girls who were the eye candy in the 90s. And I appreciated the strong wrestlers that were there. I appreciated the Molly Hollies and Victoria and Jazz.
I
like Jazz and Victoria were my favorites. They were my ultimate favorites. And you could see how they led everybody. You could see how strong they were in wrestling. You had Trish, and she was a tweener. And I love Stacy and watching, like I couldn't look like she looked. And Tori was beautiful. And you just appreciate everybody for the role that they were.
Yeah.
But the Diva Search girls, I feel like they were never doing the things that they had those girls doing in the 90s and the 80s. Like, they did a lot more racier stuff and more objectifying stuff. We peppered things in, and then gradually it dissipated. But it gradually, I feel like what should have taken maybe 2 years to move stuff out, move things along, it took probably 8, and then maybe 15, and then finally we come here. Like, in the 90s, boxing took women and they started, moving them up in the card. And I thought, in my mind, being an avid boxing watcher, when women started being presented there, and then you started seeing them in Olympics more and showcased on like the television stations, like, women were doing more stuff in the 90s, and it was so amazing. Like, oh my God, like, I want to be that. I wanted to be that. And then you go into wrestling and it's like, oh, we're not doing much. And then it took 20 years for them to finally do something. Okay, maybe 18, but
it's funny.
You know what I always wondered? This is like just off the top of my head. I didn't even like plan this, but like, did the women ever like try to form? I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask this, but like, did you guys ever try to form like an alliance or like a coalition to like over? Because to me, it's like, if I'm backstage with like 9 or 10 other women, and only 2 of us get to be on TV. And in turn, that kind of creates a toxic work environment where, you're essentially like always in a constant competition with each other, where it should be everyone gets equal opportunity. So it's like, was there ever like a time when you guys were just fed up?
Well, that's kind of hard, because I guess I was the person everybody hated because I got so much TV time. But they don't understand. And it's like, it's the craziest thing. Like, there's so many factors that go with it, where the rumors and the hate and the jealousy. I was taught that it was like a carousel. It's a Ferris wheel, and whoever's here on the bottom, you eventually wait, and then you be there at the top, and whoever's at the top eventually goes back to the bottom, and then you just take turns in a sense. But then at the same time, if there's no other person that's carrying everybody else, like, if some of these people are the main people who have the knowledge, charisma, awareness, and they just love to work, you depend on them, and they're the ones that people want to see them more often. And I get that, but you do need to pepper people in. And for me, being the only heel or the main heel, we peppered people in. And my job was to showcase that other person, to make that other person be the ultimate star. It wasn't about me. I didn't do it for myself. I was a workhorse. And I slipped on banana peels. I did everything I can. I made everybody hate me. And people think it's easy to get somebody to hate you. But this is the thing. People say, yeah, I'm a heel. Oh, I can't help it that people love heels. If you're a true heel, you take somebody who cheers you and you turn that against them and say, I don't need your love. I don't need you to cheer for me. I can do it all on my own. Turn it around so then they start hating you again. You do everything you can to not be loved. And that takes a really intricate character to stay in that kind of personality type, or that to show the world, this is the person you should love. Screw you guys. And it's not even just saying screw you. It's doing vindictive things, little details, facial reactions, mannerisms. It's an art to get people to dislike you so that that person is the one that's loved. And, you know, I felt like I did my job, and that's what they told me to do. They said I couldn't be a heel. They said I was such a baby face. I can never be heel. I did my job the best of my ability. And because I did such a good job, they put me front and center. And it brings a lot of hate, and it brings a lot of jealousy. In my mind, if people took the time to, instead of trying to ruin my career and spread rumors and do things, if they would have put the effort into their work, into studying the craft, instead of doing that to me, they would have been up there with me. If they would have listened to what I've said. I'm not trying to go against you. I'm not trying to hurt you. Believe me, I want friends. Like, I wanted friends directly. You know, I didn't want to be alone in this. Like, I hated my life. I wanted to die. I was so alone. And nobody saw that because, you know, I don't blame them. They saw what they needed to see in that moment in time. They're going through their own hell. They're going through their own pain. And I can't do anything about it. But they couldn't understand where I was coming from. So I was the villain.
Yeah.
But if they would have just listened or tried to like befriend me, so then we could say, hey, let's do this together, then we could have done so much more. You set aside your insecurities, your hate, and you realize you can make magic with, I mean, it's not only in wrestling, it's in life. It's your coworkers. It's the person, you know, like who cut you off sometimes. Like, it's so easy to hate somebody, but if you could make things work and realize that that person is just like you, you don't know, you could do so much in this world. And, oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, it's it's just interesting that you say all this, because I almost feel like the system was set up in a way that it almost made it pit you guys against each other. When you guys
I was thinking that
when you guys were the disadvantaged ones fighting for a share of the pie, and it's so unfortunate that you guys are swallowing each other up instead of you know, looking at it the way that you're saying here. So it's just fascinating. And another thing I wanted to add is, you're talking about how you thought maybe the transition was going to take only 2, 3, 4 years. You know, I was just reading about how around 2002, Fit Finlay, for example, he really would take some of the girls to his side and try to teach them certain things that they could maybe trickle into their matches until like they kind of found out about it and it was kind of frowned upon and stuff. So
not really.
Oh,
like,
really?
From what I witnessed, he was doing his thing the whole entire time. Like, I know he was like helping girls. But then at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I don't know what the story is, but from what I understood, like during the Attitude Era with Trish, like he took Trish under his wing, and he always, you know, helped her and Lisa Marie and Jazz, and you know, he helped tell the story. So he was helping even them during that time. And I think maybe there was a break. Maybe they switched to somebody else, and then Fit came back. And then I think maybe there was another shift for another year, and then he came back again. And then when I left, it was back and forth again. Like, ultimately, they'll try to give him a break, but or what they think they're giving him a break. But the girls will always need him because he has such a way of explaining things. Like, he has patience, and he can be articulate in telling us why, the reasons why. Because sometimes you want to hit moves, but he'll say, no, that doesn't make sense because this and this, that. And then he explains it in a way like, oh, okay, you're right.
And you want a presence like that behind the scenes, you know, helping you out, right? Like,
yeah, like he would always guide stuff, but I don't know. I know he always meant well, and he's always great with me. He really was, but it was this thing where I'll always let people know, like, I could have learned so much more. Like, that's why I see opportunities. And when women get given opportunities, or if you're able to stay in OVW, FCW, NXT for longer to learn and soak up all the knowledge, that's freaking amazing. Like, you want to hone your craft and be the ultimate performer before you go onto the main roster. And for me, I got brought up, and yeah, I was like, I could execute moves. I could remember everything. I know what's going on. I could cover things when they go wrong. I could work on the fly. I was good at stuff. But there's the creativity. Like, I could only imagine what I could have done if I would have learned more. Not to be just like the best out of my roster of my group of girls, but to be better because I just want to learn and be better just because. And they told me they didn't, like, a lot of people didn't work with me very much because it's like, well, what's the point? You're already the top girl. And the point is because I don't want to just be the like better, like the best out of the little, like, what the group that I'm in. I wanted
to elevate it.
Yeah, just to have the knowledge. Not if I ever had the moment where it's like, okay, me and Michelle are going to do this pay-per-view match. Like, I want to be able to bring my best and bring out everything I can and have all this creativity. But I never had that. So it's kind of like girls now, the women nowadays, you're lucky, please. The knowledge that these people are giving you, soak it in, take it in. Don't settle for just being the best of your group. Just do it because you love this art form so much.
No,
and I never had that.
No, you can like very clearly see just how passionate you were. Like, your match with Michelle McCool still to this day is like a talking point on like the evolution of women's wrestling, like especially in WWE, especially given the fact that you guys ended up allegedly being in trouble with that whole situation. So it's like,
but see, those were our moments, like you were saying earlier about starting a coalition and whatnot. Like, you can't do that. Like, okay, we're blessed to have this contract, this opportunity, and it's not to say that, hey, let me bash the company or whatnot. There's so many structures. Like, say the top person has to delegate to this person and then these people and everybody. It's like, it can't be controlled unless it's delegated. So I can't blame the whole entire company or the boss or whatever. But this is the thing. There are things within the roster where things should change, but it hasn't. It's still kind of like trickling from the years and the decades and the eras prior. And certain attitudes or maybe viewpoints, it's still there. So whatever toxicity, it's slowly like getting flushed out, but not fast enough. So when it comes to a coalition or anything where it's like, hey, girls, let's get together. We're happy we were lucky we have a job. But we don't want to lose our job. And we've seen people come and go. And it's like, oh, how do we go about where we keep our job, but kind of like push this in.
And not get heat, right? Like, yes, you don't want to get heat. Like, it's just...
So this is the thing, like, we kind of come together. And then it's like, okay, pick your spots. And, if we get punished, then our punishment was, hey, here's a lingerie match right after you did something extraordinary, or here's like I don't know, swimsuit match. Like they would do stuff like that to kind of see what we do, and it's like, okay, what are they gonna throw at us at this point? And I turned it into, in my mind, like a game. Like, okay, let's see what they're gonna have us do now. Okay, they want to see our reaction to do this and
So you had like always had a mentality of wanting to kind of push the boundaries.
Of course. How do you know?
What were some other ways? Like, give me some more insight on like, how you're able to maneuver with like kind of pushing the boundaries and also not losing your job, like how you were saying.
Well, yeah, like say like that one move with Michelle McCool, like going up
so iconic
on the railing. Yeah, the railing and taking the DDT. It's kind of just, and I don't want to get anybody else in trouble, but you hear the phrase, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
Tend to go that route. And then say, oh, I totally forgot. I totally forgot to do that. To ask you guys about it. Oh, we didn't tell you about that move? I'm sorry. It's kind of
just
like,
a DDT.
you guys are gonna hate for this, but it's kind of
like men do DDTs like 6 times per match.
Well, now you can do like 10 power bombs at this like in a row and then still kick out, and no one cares.
Yeah, it was always astonishing to me when I would read up things like, we can't let the girls match do that move because then it buries that move, or it ruins that thing, or the main event is going to do that thing. It's just like, you know, that mindset was preposterous to me.
But in a way, like, I do appreciate the card, like, say certain ways of saying move sets in a card. Like, okay, if a person's going to do this and this move, if they did it right before your match, don't do it in your match because somebody just did it. It's like, you want to, instead of like making it something that's so predictable because everybody's doing it, you feel like a psychic watching wrestling because you know what's going to happen next. I hate that so much. Like, I don't want to be a psychic. I want to be surprised. I want to be in awe. I want to be taken on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be a formula, a set type of like template that you should follow. Like, that just never made any sense to me, especially given how your move set was just so fun. Like, in my opinion, like, still to this day is one of my favorite move sets, like, overall for women's wrestlers. And I feel like I see kind of your influence in a lot of the current women, and I'm not just talking because a lot of women have cited you like as their influence, like Naomi, Sasha, two of the best women wrestlers alive, in my opinion. So it's like, to see how much you struggled, I guess, with like being able to push the boundaries while also like your moveset was genuinely amazing. And you were doing things that kind of showed that, like, you know, you have versatility. There's so many different things you can do in the ring that maybe like people don't typically expect from women wrestlers at the time, especially like seeing how, and you know what, I'm going to take it there, especially seeing how like you've been able to, you know, as a woman of color, kind of overcome like the, I want to say like maybe like the stereotypical like spicy Latina type of persona. Like you didn't have to be anything but your authentic self. And you,
works.
You're back.
Let's go.
You're back. Thank the Lord. You were talking about.
We'll crop that whole part out.
Sure. Yeah, we're talking about the you know, the representation stuff and the moveset and the creativity. And,
yes.
Yeah. So I know where you were going with this because of like it goes off of like me being a Latina and a stereotype, and then it goes to your how you're not Latina, but still like goes on to how they didn't have representation back in my time, and I was the only one like representing all cultures.
Yeah, basically.
Back to moveset.
Back to moveset.
Because that's an interesting.
It all relates to each other.
No, it was like, I don't know how that correlation came about in my mind, to be honest.
Because they wanted me to be a stereotype.
Because it was really like your talent got to speak for itself, I think is the point that I'm trying to make.
You know,
it's so sweet though.
You know what I find interesting, Melina? So earlier, right? You said how, you know, you weren't a Diva Search girl, you were an in-betweener, right? And I was just saying while you were figuring your Wi-Fi out, I could see that because you're talking about being a heel and all that stuff. It's very clear that you had instincts for the business in a way that someone would only have unless they understood wrestling, right? And so, you know, during your time, I guess, as a valet, for example, right? Like the stuff that you would do, it's stuff that like if you were completely an outsider, like they would have to like literally drill in and teach you, right? But it's almost like you just knew instinctually how to continually showcase your personality and get your you know, the people that were on your side over and all that type of stuff.
Let me go back, but I remember the part. Lesson. So if we could still go, I remember it because I thought it was funny. You were talking about me being a manager, turning into a manager.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a manager at all. Like I got into wrestling to be a wrestler. So when they told me to be a manager, I was like, what? So I just have to be this girl who's just there. Like, like maybe feel useless.
Did you find that being a valet like taught you anything? Like
it taught me everything. Like Cornette and everybody there explained to me, they're like, "Are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? That's not a valet, or actually a manager. There's like a valet, and I guess a valet. The way they told me then, like terms change all the time, but the way they explained it to me then was a valet comes out and just valets, but a manager manages. There's so many intricacies to it, and that's like you said earlier, Adam. You said that how I took the wrestling and there was a way of taking what I learned and putting it in as a manager, as a character. So you do learn a bunch of things. I memorized all the guys' moves. I knew what they were going for. If somebody got hurt or wasn't in the spot that they were supposed to be, I knew to go somewhere and say, okay, you got to go back over there. Or, this is what's going to happen next. Or what's going on? Okay, let me relay the messages. I was always a part of the match helping out. I showcase them. They showcase me in the entrance. I showcase them. There's an artwork to everything, and we are a unit. And even though they're the ones wrestling, I'm still a part of their unit.
You're elevating them, basically.
It was such a beautiful art form, the way we interacted with each other, that I would love to have that again. If I could manage people and have that kind of chemistry with everybody. And I was lucky that my first time managing in that capacity was with such a great group of people, because you can't teach and buy that chemistry. That's luck. And I was lucky to have that in M&M.
Yeah, I could easily see that. And I'm glad Isra asked you, like, did you learn anything as a valet? Because to me, it's just like, I feel like almost, even though you wanted to just be specifically in the ring, I think seeing it from the sidelines up close and also having to enhance it with what you do, it was a way for you to almost develop your personality in terms of how you showcase it. But I'm tripping over the choppiness.
Shut up.
Okay.
Please.
What's up? Talk to us.
Hopefully this works. I have no idea.
What you just left and came back?
Yeah, and I also went from like 5G to 2G. So I'm like, okay. It seemed like it had more bars. I was like, how?
I don't know. I hate that, like, I don't know shit about tech, because I feel like I'd be able to I'm like, I don't know, leave to change your Wi-Fi,
turn your phone off,
tap your phone, hold it up to the sky. Like, I don't know. It sucks, because now I feel like we got to just like make do. And I was just telling Israel, I wouldn't even really panic about it, because to be honest, I see this more as just a really chill conversation with someone who has so much insight to the business, rather than this like college interview or something. You know what I mean?
Actually, hold on, because we're probably gonna end up like editing this whole part out anyways. So let me ask you if you're comfortable with talking about this. But I have like this small section where like I wanted to go over like the perception of the women's sexuality in wrestling and like your takes on that. So like, is that something that you're like willing to talk about? Because I think that's something that
that's something that I think like nobody ever touches base on, where obviously that's huge, because the reason why Diva Search happened was because fans wanted more sex appeal. Like if the fans didn't want it, that wouldn't have been brought up. Like like Vince wouldn't have given it to them. So it's kind of like, it's what point? Because to me, it's like there's so many ways when it comes to sexuality and sex appeal and all this stuff. There's so many doors to go through. What do you want to touch base on when it comes to it? Like, what is your actual question?
One thing that always like stuck out to me is that, especially like in your generation, it was almost a prerequisite that every woman had to be sexually appealing. And to me, it's like, this is something that's catering more so to the male audience. And now, and I'll circle back to this, but now like we see the perception of like what men want to see is like they genuinely want more of like a classic match from the women. And they don't necessarily want to just see some eye candy, But there was a time when like that was something that was the norm. That's what was expected. That's what I guess they thought, or maybe the trends were back then, to kind of push more sexuality and thinking that that's what the male audience wants.
Well, they were screaming it on the top of their lungs and like the whole entire stadium. So in a way, it was kind of like, I'm telling you, everything about my time there felt like a Everest style uphill battle. At every angle, where it was like, okay, this is what people want, and no matter what you did, this is what they wanted. Like an announcer's table, and bless them, you know, I'm not trying to rip them apart or anything, or to disrespect in any way, shape, or form. We all did the job we were told to do, and that's kind of like, that's a sticky position, the rock and the hard place. You know, you do what you're told to do. You're doing what everybody wants you to do, and you just go along with it because you're blessed to have this job. And the announcers would, you know, mention, like, it wasn't even talking about our moves. It wasn't talking about the storyline. It was just what we were wearing and how we looked, or look at her assets, you know, stuff like that. Where it's just like, oh my goodness. And then you can't blame the fans for noticing that because they're pointing that out. And it was just this crazy where you can't really help it. And even nowadays, you see a lot of the women, and I'm like, oh my God, they're able to wrestle, but my outfits were not like the way, like, you know, I covered myself up. And I'm the horror in everybody's mind. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I covered myself up. I tried to do my best where I felt comfortable, and I tried to gain respect, and I never would ever get it. I would always be like a hoe no matter what I did. So no matter how good I was in the ring, what I did, and how much I covered up, I'll always be the chick that did the splits, and that's it. And nowadays, I look at women and I think, God, if you look at my posts, if you look at what I did, I am proud of myself because I like to feel good. Everything I do is for me. But I'm not going to show every bit, like everything, because I think that's what people want to see. I'm not going to show my ass. I'm not going to show my boobs. If I do it, it's for me. Like, it's for me. But I want to show everybody that I'm more than just that. If I'm feeling good, I'll post something because that's for me. But I want everybody to know that you are more than that. You are a whole human being. Like, you have hobbies and loves and interests and experiences and your friends and your family. You're so much more than just showing people, hey, this is what I like. I look good, like, here. But you're more than that. And it's kind of really difficult if this is the world we're in, where that's what people are going to look at. Even nowadays, where it's about the work, what do you see behind the scenes, and what do you see on their Instagram posts, and what do they think, like, people want to see? They want to see them looking hot. They want to see them showing skin. They want to actually see them twerking, you know? And I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, of course. Like, I love to have fun. But at the same time, I do it when I want to do it, and I don't do that so that it's all that I am. And I guess for me, I have issues because everywhere I turn, I'm sexualized, and that's why it's kind of like hard for me to have relationships, because it's not about me. When people look at me, it's not about me. They see something that's just like, I'm a thing, I'm not a person. And I want so badly to just a person. Like, I take that over everything. So you guys with the wrestling, noticing what I did, it's about the work. It's about what I tried to contribute. I knew I was not going to get the opportunities like people have nowadays. I knew that. I knew it. So it makes me happy to see that. I'm not a jealous person. I know I'm even though I'm a dreamer, I'm a realist. So I saw the things that my mom and my, grandmothers had to go through, where they didn't get to have the life that I had. My mother didn't get to have the life I had. You see each generation. You do your best so the generation after you has better. That's what I learned growing up. So that's what I did. It's like, okay, shoot, if I'm going to do this bikini match, well, we're going to do tell a good story. We're going to have fun. But then at the same time, like, next time we get a real match, we're going to kick ass so that somebody out there could want to do that. like to inspire or to maybe have it be so good that we cannot be denied. And we have some of those moments, you know, you all you can do is try.
And try, not only try, you did, Melina, you know, your efforts didn't go to waste at all, because you were a part of a collective of women that, when I look back at this, at your time period, you know, I think that maybe unfairly, because of some of the trials and tribulations that you guys faced, and I think because of what you guys had to do on television, people just kind of categorically, blanketly dismiss the period. And the way I look at it, in my perspective, I see it as performers making do with what they could within the parameters that they were put in, right? And so it's like,
but it wasn't always bad though. Like,
that's okay, what I'm saying.
Say like you touched base at one point about my move set and how it was different and all this stuff. Well, if there was no limitations, if there wasn't any restrictions, I wouldn't have been able to think, okay, well, you just told me that I can't do this and can't do that. And then you're telling me, oh, stop being aggressive, fight like a girl. And in my mind, I'm like, what the hell? A woman is ferocious. So I kept the veracity. I kept that, but also thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do that's unique to me that none of the men can do? And so I took my flexibility. I started creating different ways of doing stuff because, hey, we're limited. Limitations make you more creative.
Yes.
It's kind of like Iron Chef or whatever, one of those chef shows where they said, okay, here are the only ingredients you have. Do something with it. You can create so many more things than you would never have thought you could do. And like, if it wasn't for these limitations.
That's such a good point, and that's like how I look at it. You know, I think so many of the divas ended up being so memorable, right? And if the performers were so bad, it wouldn't be that case. You know, the fact that I think so many of them were able to get over with their personalities and some of the things that they were able to pull off in some of the wackiest angles you have ever seen, the wackiest stories you have ever seen, right? You look back at just 2000s WWE and some of the situations you guys were put in, some good, some bad, some all over the place, some over the top. I think the fact that you guys almost just went with it, right? And really just, it was almost just like, well, if I'm doing this, then I gotta do it and really put my foot forward, right? The way I look at it is just, I see the performance aspect of it, and I see the performer behind the role, and I see what they're doing to make it work and get it over, because that's your job. Your job is to just be told to do something and get it over, right? And so to me, I see all these talented, versatile performers and versatile women who they did what they could. They tried to get better. They tried to push it forward in a constantly uphill battle. And for that, I finally look back at you, and I finally look back at Beth Phoenix, and I finally look back at Victoria and Lita and Jazz and Molly Holly and Ivory and so many more. You know, because were you main eventing pay-per-views? Unfortunately, no. Were you guys, you know, in the exact same parameters as the women now? No, but yeah.
That's a lot.
You guys noticed that? I know, but it's true.
Sorry.
No, I was like, yeah, you're right.
No, I was getting into it too, but I'm just like, wow. Like that really is a lot. Like,
yeah.
So I kind of wanted to segue. So you were saying how like you were able to kind of like turn nothing into something.
Yeah.
I think the outcome of that is that you were also able to kind of like use your sexuality and your in-ring ability and everything and kind of like create your own persona within those parameters. And like obviously your personality has shown through and everything. And I have this, I guess this idea that I always like bounce around, like usually on the podcast, where I talk about whether people wrestle for like the male gaze or the female gaze. Like, is your style going to cater just to men? Are you trying to reach out to the females in the audience? Like when you kind of think about like your demographic and like who you're trying to, I guess, cater to, does that like come into mind, or is that just not something that you think about?
Well, when I first started wrestling, it's the funniest thing because say somebody will look at me and they see, I guess, okay, of course, back then they saw like, I guess, a model or whatever. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But, no. But the way I perceive myself, and it's so funny because obviously I'm not that, but I looked at, Jazz and Trish, not Trish, Jazz and Victoria. And I thought I was like a little badass. Like I didn't see my size. I didn't see my size at all. I just knew the personality type I was. And I was just always so aggressive when it came to everything I did in sports and everything, like my training. I was very serious in competition. But everybody saw me as a Trish, and I thought, well, no, like I'm not a damsel in distress. I'm the one who puts people in distress. Like, no, I'm strong. So in the beginning of my indies, my personality or my character was called Kyra, but she was a Laura Croft character. And in my mind, it's like, okay, well, I look girly like Laura Croft, but Laura Croft did all this amazing shit. So that's who I was. That's how I saw myself as. I didn't think of demographics. I thought of, I want to be a representation of what I didn't see. Anybody who could identify with me, the character that I was. I'm a person who is strong, knows her worth, and has my style. Everything is just bits and pieces of what I love in the world. It was my art, like the movements and stuff like that. It was, things where I pretend if I was singing, if I thought I was Selena, or if I thought I was like, like little bits and pieces of everything that I pretended when I was a kid. And now that's just an extension of what I feel. It's movements, it's the feeling, it's character and everything, the hair, the clothes, like you turn into something else. And I just was what I was. And if people identified with it, then I'm happy for it. And if they didn't, they didn't. But it wasn't to turn people on. It wasn't to like piss, like sometimes, well, yeah, the character is supposed to piss people off. But I find it interesting that I was just myself, or what I thought the character should be. And if people found it sexy or sensual or whatever, then thank you, because I don't see myself. It's so weird. I don't see myself as a sexy person. I just don't. I am such a goofball, and like I'm like, oh, thanks for thinking I'm sexy. I'll never get over that. But people sexualize me. I'm like, okay, thank you.
That's crazy.
But everything was just either aggressive because it's a fight. Like to me, fights aren't cute. They're not funny. Period. So then I got into it. And then the character was its own beast. But man or woman or whatever you identify with, I just want you to be entertained. No matter what I represented, were you entertained?
Right.
And all that matters to me. No matter what race I am, ethnicity, character, age, size, like, did I entertain you? And that's all I cared about. That's all. That's all I wanted.
Wow. I'll leave Rizzo to ask the next question. No, okay. She's like in awe.
No, I love that.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. It's a great answer.
Yeah, I mostly just like wonder, because I think as a female wrestling fan, because I can only ever speak in my perspective. Clearly, I do not know the ins and outs. I'm no Dave Meltzer or anyone like that. My goal with this platform, honestly, is I want to be able to kind of like facilitate, I guess, the conversation of like women and how do I want to say this? The way women consume wrestling, or like the lack of women that consume wrestling, and like how wrestling can evolve so that more women like me can be fans and are able to connect with it, because it's such a niche group. It's not as mainstream as, it should be, in my opinion.
Oh my God. Like, there's so many more women now than there was back in my day. Like, I was a freak of nature. Like, all my high school friends, nobody watched wrestling. None of the women. Guys, yeah, none of the women. So I was a weirdo. Like, my high school best friend, Naomi, love her. Please, nobody hate on her because of what I said. A lot of women are like her, and it's just like she thought I was like, Melina, really? You're like still in that wrestling stuff? Like, no. Okay, I get her perception. I'm not gonna stop being her friend because of it, because again, we're more than just one thing.
Yeah.
She's more than wrestling, and she's more than just a person who doesn't get wrestling. So it's like, I see that. I talk to other people in the world beyond wrestling, and there's a lot of people who don't watch wrestling, and I get it. So either they get a feel for it or they don't. And you get two types of people, like my best friend, my high school best friend, total girly girl, you know? She's going to want to identify with people who are more like the diva search style, like diva style. She'll identify more with that. And then you get, so like one of my friends, like she's more so tomboy. Like I'm up in between. I thought I was a total tomboy. Growing up, I was almost the only tomboy I knew. So to be a girly girl and not be like, everybody hated me because they didn't see me as a tomboy. I'm like, wait, but I grew up as a tomboy. How am I not a tomboy? I was the tweener.
That's interesting.
It's so weird. But
it's like you can't be a tomboy if you're hot.
It's so weird. But I never considered myself hot. So that was the weirdest thing where I was like, wait, what's going on? People That's like amazing. Me? What?
That must have been such a wake-up call when like you realize like everyone thinks you're hot. Like, where is this coming from? Like, I thought I was just like low key.
It was so weird because then you get people like acting all creepy, and I'm like, bro, what's wrong with you? Like, I went from being like, you know, like a sister to all of a sudden people started like being weird, and I just didn't understand that. I was like, dude, what's going on? Like, what's your problem? What's happening here? Why are you being weird?
Are you talking about in terms of like the fandom or like people backstage?
Oh no, like I'm saying like growing up. Like,
growing up, people around like just like dudes around her. Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden they're not your friend and everybody's weird.
Oh my God.
And it's like nothing really changed, I didn't think. Maybe my hair got longer.
Oh my God.
But I think maybe hormones or pheromones or energy or something happens where it's like, you know, the summer, you come back for the summer and all of a sudden the next year, hey, how's it going?
Oh my God.
And I'm still going to be my brother's annoying little sister. Like probably till the day I die, I will always see myself as that. Like, I don't see what other people see.
It's just interesting, like how much of like you we're getting here. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to her personality and like the fact that it really I genuinely did not know until speaking to her here like about the whole, you know, I didn't see myself as sexy and I'm really just a goofball and I'm a tomboy and I'm just you know this and that. You know what I mean? Like it's just really interesting.
Wrestling taught me to be a girly girl.
Wow.
Like I never wore dresses or skirts. I never put on makeup. Hated it all. I was always pants, t-shirt, sneakers all the time. So wrestling taught me.
Wow.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's like holy crap. That's
crazy. Like I had to. But then at the same time, it's like all the things that I wished I could have like, I want to dress up in that, but I feel weird dressing up. Like, where do you get to dress up in anywhere the way you do in wrestling? So it's in a way, it was like, well, it gives me an excuse to do something crazy or wear something different. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna roll with this. Yeah. So it was a good outlet to explore that side that I never would have because I was a tomboy and felt uncomfortable. It made me comfortable in my own skin. So I could complain about it, but at the same time, it taught me a lot. It showed me a lot. And I learned a lot about myself through wrestling. Even the crappy parts, you know, all the brick walls that we had to like, you know, run into, like that all taught me everything. So I could sit here and complain about how I didn't get to do this and I got treated like this and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is I learned a lot about life and people and what I love and who I am because of all of this. And then I get to talk to people like you.
It's just, it blows my mind how like people aren't just like running your door over to like just pick your brain about all this stuff, you know? Because I just think it's such good insight, you know?
I want to teach people, but this is the thing. We live in a day and age where everybody already knows everything.
No, you know what I just picked up on? Because I watched an interview like some time ago where I I believe it was with Lillian Garcia, where you were telling her like you wanted to study psychology so that you can be able to help people with mental health problems because that's something that you've been through. And then in this conversation, you kind of talking about like you want to be able to like teach people and like be more open. How did you kind of come to this place where like now you want to kind of like give back?
I've always wanted to. Like, I'm gonna probably try to touch base on a lot of things. Well, now it's slipping my brain, but
you're just like me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when each of you talk, like all these thoughts come up, and it's like so much, and I can't say it. Yeah. But I always wanted to help people. Like originally, I was a medical assistant, so as soon as I graduated high school, I went to medical assisting school, and then I started working for a cardiologist. So I think I did all that by.
Oh no.
Nursing and then go get my doctorate. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a doctor. All I ever wanted in my life was to help others. And that's what I felt like my purpose was in life. And then it's kind of like the curveball of wrestling where it's like, well, you know, how often do you get this opportunity? Like, okay, this happened to me for a reason. I could always go back to school. And then I went down that tunnel. But I believe like everything happened so that I could find what I really want to do, and is to study psychology, because maybe medicine wasn't the route I was supposed to take. Psychology is like helping people, because I know that there's so much more I can do, but I don't do because of whatever's in here. We're the only ones that stop ourselves. We are capable of change and problem solving, and we could change the world if we wanted to, but this stops us from doing that, like the thoughts in our heads. And it's funny how earlier you guys were saying how I the way I guess like, what was it, the promos, and I'm so well spoken, and like, I was not like that. I was extremely shy. I used to be very introverted.
Wow.
So it's so weird how like I have a strong presence where I walk around and I'm quiet. I listen to people, but I would never talk. So people thought I was stuck up because I didn't talk.
Wow.
And nobody saw this social anxiety I had. Like I would really, if people put me on the spot, I would get anxiety. When they used to have me do promos in OVW, I just like freeze and didn't know what to do. If I couldn't think of things off the fly. Give me a character and then I'll tell you what the character says, because I sit there and I think about it. But to just put me on the spot, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So I had to overcome my social anxiety. I had to overcome like my shyness, because people hated me for the fact that I didn't talk. But then if you talk and you tell everybody your whole life story, then you find people use it against you and stab you in the back. So it was this whole thing where I'm trying to understand everybody in wrestling, trying to understand relationships, trying to understand like my family, and psychology. Like psychology in wrestling helped me start trying to figure out things in life. It's my metaphor for life in a sense. Like it used to be Rocky. Everything like went back to the movie Rocky when it comes to like.
What's up?
I was watching you guys, and like you're like,
I was like, no.
You're like, I hope she comes back.
Yeah, you're like right here trying to just click buttons and shit. Yeah. All right, Rocky.
Yes. So the last thing you said was you were talking about Rocky was what used to inspire you.
Yeah. When it comes to watching the movie Rocky, like to me that represented life. And now like with wrestling, okay, now I took it like still Rocky, but wrestling also is a metaphor for my life in like in different ways, where it comes to like how I talk to people, how I interact, and how do I like break down the like psychology, and how do I like say when it comes to understanding other people and what they're going through. I may not agree. I may want to like I get mad, but it's kind of like, so how would I talk to a person who's like a higher up where I want to keep my job? And I think in my mind, like, it's not that I want to say keep a job when it comes to certain people. It's kind of like, okay, Melina, you need to keep your calm and talk to these people, see what do they actually want, and I have to like adjust everything. Psychology and wrestling helped me think about everything in life and deal with life, and having patience and having to hurry and having everything just not be planned, because there's a lot of spontaneity and rushing and crazy. There's so much crazy in wrestling that all of that helped me deal with life. And yeah, it's weird how I went from not being able to talk to being able to talk, from not being able to have conversations and understand what people are going through, to now I do. But now it's this thing where everything that I've gone through, all the pain, hurt, struggling, the quietness, like I could identify with the quiet of a person who's introverted. I can identify with the person who's extroverted. I am a tweener in every sense of the word, in different categories. And I think I take that and I use it to help others to understand who they are, what they want, and how to, I guess, mend bridges in their life that they want to mend if they want to. And I can use that in psychology and therapy. Like, what is the purpose of all these things happening to me? And in my mind, I think it's that, to help others. I mean, what's the point of all these things you go through if it isn't to help somebody else?
Yeah, to learn from them and then see how you can maybe use your experiences to just impart to other people how they can maybe better handle those experiences.
Yeah, but this is the thing I always tell everybody. One of my friends, she's like, well, she went through a breakup. She's trying to understand. Yeah. I said, you know what? When it comes to even you're trying to tell somebody you love them.
Yeah.
Unless it's when it comes to addiction, when it comes to even something as simple as love, you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped, and you can't make somebody see your love if they don't want to see it. And for me, when it comes to my me trying to teach, I tell everybody I'm the cool aunt. I'm not the mother. Everyone keeps saying I'm the mother. I wanted to be, but I kind of rather be the cool aunt, because you come to me when you're ready. I'm not going to push my ideas on you. I'm not going to push my advice on you. You come to me when you're ready, if you want to learn anything, and I will tell you what I can through my experiences, and you could take it with a grain of salt, and that's it.
So you've been able to seriously evolve, and
she's been able to evolve.
Yes, you've been able to take every situation you've been in, whether good or bad, and been able to turn it into such a positive thing. So I was just wondering, how have the backstage environments changed? With in various wrestling promotions, since leaving WWE, what is it that brings you back to wrestling, and what is the environment like as the years have went on?
It's kind of funny, because I feel and there are gonna be people who are like, no, Melina, don't say that. But there's things that have changed, but then things that are still the same. Me feeling out of place, as much as I want to be a part of everything, and I think maybe it's always gonna be there. I don't know. I still will always feel out of place. I go back and it's okay, everybody's so much younger, and because of my experience, people don't see me. It's weird. People don't see me as if I'm older, and they don't treat me like I'm older. They treat me like I'm one of them, and it's well, you kind of want a little bit of the respect, you know?
That's interesting.
So it's weird. It's so weird, because it's I get treated like I'm one of them, but then at the same time, obviously, I don't get invited to some of the stuff where it's oh, okay, clicks are already happening just like the way they always have. And it's I'm a part of it, and I'm not. But there's a lot of sweethearts, and it's well, maybe they see me as that veteran. They're oh, we don't want to, nothing, we don't want to be bad in front of her, or maybe just there's still that tension where people are still competing. I'm twice as old as them, and they're still competing as if it's weird.
Trying to take someone's spot or something.
It's yep. But I shouldn't. This is the thing. In everything that I've done, every time I've worked with somebody, I don't see a person who's trying to take my spot. And maybe.
Hold on. Oh, she's back.
Am I back?
Yes, you are back in full motion.
I was this is taking so I'm switching things over and everything. I'm listening to you guys, and I was
oh man. All right. So what was the last thing she said? No, I forgot. You were just
you guys repeated it too, and I was oh, thank you for remembering.
So basically, you were just kind of going through
holy cow, it was a juicy morsel, like you guys said.
You were just talking about just like how things have changed, but also stayed the same. And when you come back and how like you're a little.
No, maybe was it like people hating or something like that? Oh no, like people think you're gonna try to take your spot.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe it's because, okay, so whenever it's like I did the best of my ability, no matter what match I was in, no matter who I worked with. I didn't think like, oh, somebody's trying to steal my spot. Like, no, maybe I'm conceited in the fact that I feel like confident in my work, but I don't believe that anybody could replace me. Like, say you could find a different version of me, but then at the same time, it just reminds people of me. So that doesn't make me feel threatened. And when it comes to women who say like, oh, you're trying to take my spot, what? I want more people to work with. Like, you're different than me. I don't feel threatened at all. Like, we're all different. And together we could create something incredible. Like, I look for talent because I want to work with talent. I want to work with the most amazing people. The more athletic, the more creative, the more amazing of a character you are, come over here. I want to work with you, you know?
Yeah.
And people don't do that. They're insecure and they want to block you. And I think that's weird. Why would you want to do that when you're just stifling yourself by doing that? I love working with freaking amazing human beings.
Why not?
And I think that even people who are limited are incredible.
What's up, Israel?
I do not mean to cut you off, but like, do you think that like, given like all of that, do you think that like when you came back at the Rumble, that it kind of sparked something in you to like want to come back and like?
Are you trying to facilitate something here, Israel? Is that what you're trying to do?
It's like yes and no. Part of me,
I mean, you have unfinished business.
Part of me was like I could come back, and then the other part was like I could retire now. Bye.
Once it's out of your system,
there's so much more. Like I literally screamed like.
Oh my goodness!
Israel, I remember you said on Twitter that was your highlight of the show.
Oh my God, people, I kept trending. I was like, oh my God, they forgot about who won. Like, I was trending so much that they forgot about who won. No offense or anything. But
no, exactly.
Probably people thought I died. Probably people thought I was never going to come back to the WWE because I was so hated. Or either that they just freaking miss the character and all that love. Like, people just showed love. I don't know if it's just me or empaths. Like, I get different people telling me different things, but I felt the love. Like, I felt the positivity. If I could, in my mind, if I could give people just a little bit of what I felt, like, this world would be a better place. Like, it was so beautiful. All the love and positivity. It just like, oh, you feel it through every fiber of your being, like every follicle of hair, every pore, like through your bones and everything. It's like,
this is spiritual.
It really was.
Was that like a full circle moment for you too? Because I noticed you kind of like held on to a lot of the hatred and like you obviously like haven't let in a way like you've healed. I can tell you've healed from it, but you still something that like you mentioned, like all the hate that you were getting. Do you feel like you coming back and getting such a warm welcome and like all the women in the back were taking pictures with you? The fans lost their minds when you got eliminated early. It was like it became about you. Like, was that like a full circle moment when you realized like all beautiful. That hate just doesn't matter anymore?
Well, no, the hate. Okay, so the hate is good for the fact that, okay, without the hate, you don't appreciate the love as much. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of like the hard work of struggling. Okay. Why is it doing this to me?
I don't know, but you were talking about how like the hate was important because it allowed you to then properly feel the love.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like all the hard work that you put into something, and then you don't appreciate when you finally make it, or you don't appreciate it that much. When you get given something, you take it for granted. But when you work for something, you appreciate it that much more. And if it wasn't for all that negativity and all that toxicity or the hate or everything, I wouldn't have felt the love as much as I did. You know, I wouldn't appreciate it and be grateful for it as much. I would, because knowing my personality, I would be grateful, but not as much. It made me believe in humanity, you know, to see that and feel that, especially in a day and age where it's like I need, like, oh my God, people are crazy. You need to believe in humanity. And that was something where it's like, God, I'm glad that, because through depression and whatnot, I'm glad I survived life to be able to experience that. It was a beautiful thing. And it's like, I don't ever want that for anybody, like the sadness or the hurt or the crazy and whatnot. I want people to be able to fulfill their dreams and just focus on their dreams.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it made me a stronger person. Like, I know I could get through anything. I know I could survive anything because of wrestling, because of the hate, because of the rumors, because of the craziness and the jealousy and people trying to ruin my life, or even people who didn't even know. Like, fans wanted to get to know me so badly. They believed in the rumors. They believed in the crazy. And then people tried to, I always say people, and people on the dirt sheets, it's like, 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 when it comes to nowadays, you don't know what newscasts, like news station to trust because somebody's paying somebody to write certain things. It's kind of like that with the dirt sheets, where some people would say, hey, Melina did this and this and that. Oh, well, I'm credible and blah, 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 blah. No, you're not credible because somebody gave you something to give you more hits. And somebody told you to do that. And you want to pretend you're in the know when in reality, you're hurting somebody's life. Like, back in those days where there was only very few sources, they did it because they don't see a person. They see a female who's probably a whore, probably, who cares? A woman is just a thing. It's not a human being. And they could treat me however they wanted to treat me. But the way I was brought up, no, the truth. I want people to know the truth. And it was hard for me being an introvert and shy. It's like, you don't tell people your personal business. You don't say that. Am I going to lose a job if I talk about who I am and what I am? I got yelled at for being a nice person. Like, I got yelled at because you should be a heel at all times. And I'm thinking, am I not allowed to hug kids? Am I not allowed to sign autographs? No, I got yelled at for signing an autograph for a fan.
Wow.
That's insane.
I would get yelled at for every little thing where it's like, I don't know what the fuck to do because am I going to get fired? Am I going to get heat amongst my peers? I didn't know how to live. Other people didn't go through this. It was only me. And I was thinking, oh my God. And maybe people wanted to see my reaction because I sold everything. Like, what, like, my facial reactions? Yeah. People love to see this. Yeah. And it's their entertainment when they're bored. So if I hurt and I cry or I freak out, oh yeah, let's do that to Melina.
That's insane. It really hurts to hear that, Melina, because you're such a gracious human being. And no, really such a gracious, beautiful fucking person. And
thank you for saying that, because I turn everything to a joke because I had no other way of dealing with everything. Yeah. And so I turn everything to a joke, and it helps me. It really does help me to make light of everything. But for you to say that and make it real, thank you, because nobody's ever, like, people don't really often do that.
No, absolutely. And it's why for me, I'm happy for you that through all this just bullshit, you got to get embraced by 44,000 people at the Royal Rumble. 44,000 people popped when you came through. And even if it was just for a cameo, it was one of the major talking points following, one of the major pay-per-views of the year. And for me, it's like, and this is before I even heard just you in detail from the horse's mouth talking about some of this stuff. I was like, man, that good for Melina. Good for Melina, right? And you know what I mean? Like, and so now just hearing you kind of your perspective on everything, it's just like, it's really unfortunate, some of the ups and downs. But I love that your positivity continues to just still be there. And your enthusiasm for wrestling continues to be there, and we still get to see you from time to time. I wish it was more. You know what I mean? I wish it was more because you're so important.
No, for me, like, I mean, I already told you, I screamed. You came, I screamed when the elimination happened. But to me, it's like, it felt so surreal in a way, because it was, 11 years at that point. And, like, there are certain times with, like, when, like, you kind of accept that someone might not come back. The WWE can be kind of petty at times and not really reach out to people that are fan favorites. Like legitimately people want to see you. So, you know, to see you come back and have that moment be so real, like it was just like one of those moments that just like meant so much to me, because like I told you, like 8-year-old me, there was no Royal Rumbles.
For women, no, yeah. There were no women's rumbles. Yeah.
My favorite wrestlers, women wrestlers when I was a kid, they like didn't get to do these things, except, you know, besides the ones like that you Mickey, you know, the ones that got to come back. But it's like you had to struggle and politic and like work your ass off so that women now are able to do these things, and you're able to do so and be so grateful for it, and you haven't become like, you know, bitter, or you didn't, you know, you are just so supportive unconditionally, and that's just amazing to me. And so you know, getting to hear from you and getting to have this conversation with you, it was just like I can't even put it into words how much it means to me.
Yeah.
So
I feel bad because I can easily see how people can be bitter. Like I totally can see it, you know? And I don't fault them for it. But then at the same time, I think, okay, well, the thing that needs to change, and I kind of hope the thing that needs to change is that there needs to be life after wrestling for every wrestler. And I need to be able to find that and showcase that, hey, look, we can survive this. And as much as I want to go back to wrestling, I've been like I've been yelled at by some people. Like there was one person on Cameo where it's like, you could be doing more. You're really dropping the ball on all the wrestling you could be doing. And I was like,
why
well,
would
thank you?
Someone yell at you on Cameo?
Like wanting to see me
tough love, maybe.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
I learned so much about perspectives. Like, so some people are angry at me because I'm not trying harder and not doing more, and I should be wrestling more for them. And I said, you know what?
It's your life. Like what?
Thank you. Right?
It's your life. Like what?
I just told them, thank you for loving like my work that much. If you want to see me doing it,
I guess.
All I'm focusing on, I don't want to disappoint people, but all I want to focus on is being happy. And that's all any of us can do.
And Melina, that's what you deserve. Frankly, that's what you deserve. I think you were somebody that was so important for your period. You're somebody that I think I'm happy now that if nothing else, retroactively, more people are kind of catching on and appreciating what you were able to provide. And we thank you so much for coming by. You know, because you could have big leagued us, you could have just ignored us or whatever, and I wouldn't have took it anyway. I kind of like, you know, it is what it is, right? But you were so willing to go engage Isra and have this interview with us.
Little old me, like,
and frankly, yeah, like, look,
about everything. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like talking to her, seeing like the string of the thread of what everybody was saying. It's like, oh well, it's nice to have people want to know about like the Divas era and whatnot. And I just don't understand how at that time like people can think of it in a bad way. Like you guys felt like maybe we were, I don't know, we did a lot of like sexualized things, but not as much as the decade before. Like we weren't as bad, but for some reason, because maybe there was more women that weren't as hardcore wrestlers or seen as hardcore wrestlers, we were seen that way. But if we really weren't like treated worse, we just didn't get a lot of time for as many people, like as many women as we had.
Yeah.
I loved when we had only one title. That's another thing too. I'm like, why do we need 2 titles? It made the people who were on the other brand work on storylines. And to me, the story was everything. Screw the title. I want the story. And so,
wow, that's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, when people wanted to watch you, like, say if you're on a pay-per-view and people want to watch you for the story, and they're not talking about the championship match. That felt good.
That's pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. To have a non-title women's program on the show that people cared about with no belt on the line. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, to me, that's how you know your work is good. You want to be that type of wrestler. The title doesn't mean anything unless the story. And to me, it's like if it gets changed around too much, there's no real validity to it. You want to work as hard as you can so that somebody says, okay, you know what? You're so incredible. We're going to give you a run at a shot at the title because you are such a great storyteller.
Right.
I don't want to wait for my turn. Like people want to wait. Like when's my turn to happen? I don't want to wait for my turn. I want to earn my turn. And that's what says if you're good or not.
Mm-hmm.
You're so much better than me, because I would have been like, I've been here for years. Like, give me my damn things. So much better than me.
It's hilarious.
But that's the thing. You want to be so undeniable that they have to use you.
Right.
That's where you feel like you earn something. It's not a waste of time, you know? Like but that's the way my mindset. I want to earn something. I want to be like, I don't want somebody to just give. It's like when people kiss my ass. I don't like it when people kiss my ass, because that's, to me, that's I feel like that's condescending. But if you genuinely like me and you're genuinely nice, that means the world to me.
Right.
That's from the heart.
Yeah.
So I don't want somebody to just give me something just because they're gonna get something, or because no, I want to earn it. That feels so good.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah, Melina.
That. So with that said,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something, Hangman?
That's fine. I was just gonna say what also feels good is just this interview. This has been my favorite. So, Melina, we've been doing this podcast since the beginning of the year, and like, to me, this is such a come up, and this is absolutely by far my favorite podcast that we've done.
100%. And I'm so proud of this.
Yeah.
I like, genuinely, I was like, if I'm going to be a part of this platform with you guys, because I'm not the only female that's a part of this platform, but I'm definitely the loudest. So I'm just like, I'm going to make this feminine. I'm going to bring as much feminine energy as I can. I want wrestling to be a space where femininity is celebrated and not looked down upon. I don't care if you choose to be overly sexual, or if you want to be a tomboy, however you want to present yourself, however you want to wrestle, it should be up to you. And like, us as women, like, we should be able to, get to, enjoy that and have that for ourselves. Because, for the longest time, we just, we had it, of course. There's like, it's no disrespect, but it's like, to be able to see how much like women's wrestling has evolved. It's like, I've always appreciated the generations that came before, because you were misunderstood.
Yes.
Because when you don't have much of a voice, I'm not saying you don't, but like when you don't have as much, I guess, clout as like, the main guys, the men, the women now that are like calling the shots, it's like you've just had it so much harder. And the fact that like you always were able to make the best out of nothing and be successful in spite of, all of these obstacles, that's just amazing to me. And let's segue this into, because I know we've been like going.
No, I like the conversation. I'm down. I'm like, oh yeah, let's keep going with this.
Yeah. It's amazing. Go ahead. What were you gonna say,
Hangman. That's his nickname, by the way. So Hangman wanted me to ask you for your advice to like other women wrestlers. I was like, I wanna ask for like advice for like us regular.
Sure. Well, if you think that's even better, then go for it.
Honestly, I feel like since you're down, let's have both answers. Like, what kind of advice would you give to women wrestlers that are like current or like up and coming? And then in general, what advice do you have to your fans that, have loved you and adored you for as long as we have?
Just life advice overall.
No, literally, like what I just feel like picking apart your brain.
Bro, she should be like a self-help expert, right?
No, like let's get this book deal. Let's
like write a book, make a series on the internet, like it's.
I like maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's the route I need to go to.
Motivational
Because I do want to do that stuff. It's just like but to find the avenue, or maybe somebody who has who's able to help me go through that and be able to learn how to do that, because it's all about something that's outside of wrestling, but I want to incorporate wrestling. But anyway, let's go on.
Thank you for saying honestly, that. We should talk. Yeah, we got to talk about this afterwards. I think there's something here.
Oh, for sure.
But the advice that I would give for female wrestlers now, the thing I always tell people is, if you think you know it all, then quit wrestling, please, because wrestling is ever evolving, and the more personality types that and this is what I love about wrestling: variety different styles, different personalities, different ways of movement. Like, people don't understand if I work with them and they're like, I just bump. Well, no, you don't understand. Like, when I work with people, if I bump you, each person kind of like falls differently and gets up differently. Their instinctual reaction is different. We get taught the same way, but sometimes people move, like, not sometimes, all the time, how slow or how fast people move, which direction that they prefer to get up, if they snap, if they don't snap. Like, there's all these things that go into play. And I take what their natural reactions are and create something from it. So, and then sometimes you create new moves, you create a new spot, you create something new. So life in wrestling is ever evolving. And if you think that you already know it all, then that's boring to me. Like, I like, okay, end my life now, because I don't want to be bored in wrestling. Wrestling's always going to be exciting to me. And I always want to learn. I always want to meet new people. I want to work with different people. And so my advice is keep learning. If you think you know it all, find something, like, watch things, pick things apart. And it's not to critique it where you disrespectfully shame somebody. Hey, think, like, look at yourself, look at your own work, and don't mark out to yourself. Look at your own work and say, oh my God, my posture, my stance is, ugh. I do that all the time. Like, even now, where it's like, oh my God, I need, every time it's like, when I used to go in the ring every week, it'd be different. But, you know, when you take breaks off, it's like, crap, I screwed that one up. But you have to look at your work and say, okay, can my strikes be better? Can my selling be better? How about this? Like, critique all the time. Care, enjoy it, take it in, love it, but at the same time, like, don't get lazy with it. Like, change it up, do something different. That's how you reinvent yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's so important.
You don't ever want to be like complacent.
No.
But do enjoy it too at the same time. It's a fine line. In the beginning, it's all about the work. It's like, oh God, overkill. But then you start easing up. But then don't ease up too much. Still take it in, but still care.
That's awesome. And then for your fans, Melina, what do you have to say for just all the people that have loved you for all this time, that still care about you, that still just...
Is there anything you want to tell us about the future?
Yeah. Certainly.
I always all about the future. I'm here saying, like, I love you, and da-da-da. She's like, what's going to happen in the future?
So what's going on? You know,
Is just trying to book you in a program. That's what she's trying.
I know. It's like,
we all have our agendas.
Where, you know, I struggle. And I try not to be that person that says, I'm going to retire and then doesn't retire. You know, you get that all the time. I will not say that unless I know for sure that I'm going to retire. I will not say that because I know how this business is. It sucks you in. You get a little taste of it. It's like, oh, well, maybe I can do it again. Like, maybe I can do it more.
Yeah.
I don't want to let people down, but I want to be happy. I want to find a balance.
Right.
Part of me is like, well, I wish I could manage again because I know I could do that and not feel like I'm suffering, you know? I won't get any... It's more than just that. It's not just physical, where I do worry about my knee sometimes. I'm like, is it going to blow out at one point?
Oh, boy.
But it's also the art, because every time I do shows and I want to be able to be creative, and then people don't allow me to be creative. Like, in my mind, when I think of, like, the villainess I know I could create, or even the baby face that I know I could create, I see things in TV show format or like a movie style. Like, I see in-depth, intricate characters and how they move and what their wants and needs are and what they're willing to do to make somebody suffer or to make a point or to triumph over something. Like, I love those intricacies, and there's no way in wrestling that no one will ever give me that. Like, it's just here, tell you what to do. Go dance, monkey. And that's what I feel like. I'm not saying people are doing it. I'm saying that's what it feels like. And, you know, WWE, as much as everybody wants to talk crap about them, they gave me the creative liberty and the platform and opportunities to create an amazing character. I will always be grateful for that. And I've been searching all these years to try to recreate that. And it's like, I come close, but then no cigar. Come close and no cigar. I do credit Impact though for giving me the story with Deanna, because that has been the closest I've come to ever having that again.
A long form kind of character arc story where you get to kind of really jump into it. Yeah. What I'll tell you is this, Melina. Even though this interview is coming to a close, I don't think your story in wrestling is coming to a close. I think that there's much more for you to give. I don't know if
that's good or bad.
Yeah, oh my God, no.
Listen, I think at some point something is gonna happen for you that'll allow you to be able to give more of yourself to the business in a way that's fulfilling to you. And if nothing else, I hope that's the case. But on behalf of everybody at WrestlePurists, we thank you for coming by and talking to us. We love you. We appreciate you. We value you. And honestly, I'm just going to throw this out here live not live, but on the interview. I would love to talk to you again at some point.
Yes, I love this discussion.
This is great. Yeah. Isra?
Oh my God. Where do I even start? I just genuinely want you to have your flowers, and I don't know how little old me can give them to you, besides just to say that your impact in women's wrestling is I don't even actually let's scrap this. Hang on.
Sure.
I'm not gonna get emotional.
Not even. You know why? Because let me tell you, and I'm not saying I'm comparing myself to Wonder Woman or anything like that, but for me, Linda Carter, I had this moment with Linda Carter, and I was like, I've met celebrities, like nothing's gonna affect me. And I just wanted to tell her, like, looking on my TV screen and not having any like representation, no ethnic representation that fit me. Like, I didn't look like anybody on TV when I watched. And having her, even though, eye colors are different, but she still was the closest thing I had to looking like me, and the person that she was, and she's so kind, and like, she was just so amazing that when I met her in person finally, like, I thought I was gonna like be all calm and cool and collected. I bawled. I forgot to take my picture with her. Wow. Like, I forgot to take my picture with her, and I had thank goodness a fan was there, and they caught the moment and they DM'd it to me. But tears, and it's because something struck a chord, like all these things where it brings you back to childhood. You think about your life and who you are, who they were to you, all these things. And if I could have that effect on anybody, I want to hug you and thank you for saying the positive parts.
Yeah.
Instead of villainizing me as a human being, like, thank you for seeing me.
Never. No, of
and
course.
I love you for it.
Listen, you have such an amazing spirit. So I know you wouldn't say it, but honestly, like, all these people that mess with your spirit and try to bully you, they can go to hell. You can take the high road, and I respect you for it, but they can go like
they can go fuck them.
Good people make mistakes, I don't fault them for it. I mean, at the same time, it was just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you guys? Like, But looking back, and it's like, man, we were all struggling, and some people find different ways to deal with their struggles. And unknowing or knowing, the bullying-ish. I don't know. If some people are like, I didn't bully you. I'm like, through your eyes, I think you did, but you did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't fault them, because we were going insane. We were going insane. So I get it. I get the struggle. But at the same time, it's like, God, I wish they did know my heart. I wish they did know I cared. I wish they did know that if I could, I would have helped.
Now they know.
And
I'm so happy we got to do this, and you got to have this platform where you could really just say what's on your mind and what's in your heart. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm just genuinely so proud of you. I don't know if that means anything to you, but like, it's like,
no, you are so sweet. I love you. I'm serious. Like, one of these days, I am gonna find you. Not in a creepy, scary way. I'm gonna find you so we can hang out. I'm gonna give you a hug.
Absolutely.
Please.
We're gonna sit there and chat. And I hope I get to, like, it's not I hope. It will happen.
It will happen.
It will happen.
It will.
Oh, 100%.
Thank you for the flowers. And all I gotta say to people is that, say maybe in the wrestling world or in any wrestling company, maybe they're never going to give me my flowers. And that's okay, because what I want to teach people is sometimes in life, it doesn't take a machine to put a spotlight on you to make you a star. You are a star. You know, there's people who have, like, say when I look at Ricky Steamboat, I love that man. He was the Bruce Lee of wrestling. Like, he has no idea. And maybe he does, because I do tell him. He was so incredible. Like, he should have been pushed to the moon, and he wasn't. You should see his passion for wrestling. I think he taught me to have passion. You could, when he starts talking about it, his face, everything. Like, he's so inspiring,
right? Yeah.
But he's a person who just kept, like, he did so much for wrestling, that sometimes people who are making transitions in wrestling, or not, for other people who are giving back, who are putting forth, like, laying down the bricks in the road of wrestling, who are inspiring, who are incredible minds, incredible hearts. He teaches, he helps, like, he was the agent for us back in the day. He was so knowledgeable, and he deserves so much, like dozens and dozens bouquet of flowers, but he didn't get it. But still, it's not going to stop the impact and what he's done, accomplished in WWE or WWF at the time, in wrestling at all. Some of us are going to be silent, participants, or not getting the flowers we deserve, but it doesn't make it any less what we've done in this business or life. So when it comes to life, people, don't wait for somebody to pat you in the back. Know it in your heart that you did something. It should feel good knowing it in your heart. Yeah, it's nice to get the pat on the back, but most of the time we're not going to get it. So for me, what I'm going to do is, if people want to hear my story, and I know whether I get the flowers or not, it's okay. I am thankful for my experience. I'm thankful for what I contributed, but I will tell my story whether they want to tell it or not.
That's amazing.
Because I want everybody to learn from it. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I've suffered and overcome, and that's what life is. Life is continuous hurdles. You think there's gonna be this flat ground, and then it's like, oh no, there's another hurdle. You gotta jump over that one, and then sometimes you fall, and you gotta pick yourself back up. This is what life is, but you learn to kind of love those hurdles, embrace them. And I just want everybody to learn, or to be entertained, or to be inspired. And that's what I hope in my story, when the day I get to tell it.
Melina, I'm extremely inspired. I'm literally about to go to work running through a brick wall because I talked to Melina. I'm fired. I'm really fired up. And I'm sure Isra is as well.
The thing is, I was nervous before starting, but now I feel like I've been talking to my big sister. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like we're connected. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to convince myself that there's a connection.
Yay!
It's amazing. And so, on behalf of Isra and everybody at WrestlePurists, Melina, God bless you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. When this eventually makes it to YouTube, I look so forward to the feedback from people. And so for the YouTube people, make sure to subscribe to WrestlePurists if you're not.
Yes.
Be sure to like and comment on the video. I'm so excited for the feedback. Melina, thank you, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.